guys, just going to do a quick tutorial video showing you how to install stud mounts onto a rifle stock for your sling, your bipod, etc. I've just bought this Anschutz 1517 178HMR. It comes with a couple of stud mounts in the box, but obviously not fitted to the rifle. I'm going to show you just how to do it so you can do it to your own rifle at home. It's very simple, shouldn't be any issues. Okay, so what we're going to need is a drill. We're going to need some masking tape. We're going to need a pencil, a drill bit. I'm using a 4mm because that matches the sling studs. Countersink, obviously the studs themselves. I've been supplied with a little screwdriver. I'll probably use my own, but we're going to need obviously some tools to strip the action and the barrel out of the stock. I'm going to need to strip the rifle down. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the bolt. I'm going to drop the magazine out as well. I'm going to need to take the action and barrel out. So for me, that's 3 bolts on the underneath that I need to do. Just obviously when you're doing it, if you're doing it for the first time, make sure you note where everything goes in case anything falls out or a little washer or something. You're like, where's that? So just make sure you take a note before you start. So I'm just going to drop that one out. Quite handy to have a little bag here that you can just put everything in, so you're not going to lose any parts while you're doing the rest of it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is mask off the stock in the areas that we're going to want to drill. So the idea of that is we're going to protect the wood with the masking tape for use with the drill if we slip or anything like that, but also I'm going to use it to make sure that the studs are going to be in line centrally on the rifle stock. And you can also just put a pilot mark as to where you want to go. So I'm going to whack some masking tape on. So when you're choosing where you want your studs to be, think about like the overall barrel length. You know, this is quite a short rifle. It's only a 14-inch barrel. I like the stud to be relatively close to the end, but also leaving room for a bipod to rest around the side. So I'm going to position mine at the front of this stippling on the side here, and then I will mark it off in a moment, the perfect spot for it. So now what we want to do is just choose whereabouts we're going to be putting our studs. Choose your positions as to how far in from the butt of the rifle you want and how far in from the fore end, because you know that's going to sort of handle how the rifle sits on your shoulder, etc. when you've got the sling on, how it holds the weight. Do you remember when you're putting your marks onto the masking tape, when you're placing the masking tape on, it's not going to be straight, it's not going to be central, so don't use that as a point of reference. Make sure that you're looking down the actual base of the stock. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the first hole done. What I would suggest is you can work your way up to say a 4mm for the studs. You could start with a 2mm and do a very small little pilot hole, then put the bigger drill piece on so that you're building it up rather than just going straight in with a bigger one. Depends how competent you are with the drill. So it's very important to have a good sturdy grip on the rifle at this point. Now because it's going to be nice and flat across this edge, I'm actually going to use that to put pressure on to be able to drill into it. Obviously, the reason we take out the barrel, this is quite thin wood in here. It's probably no more than about 3/4 of an inch. It's unlikely we're going to go through that. Obviously, well, we're not, but for some rifles, you're going to have a thinner piece of wood there, and you want to be careful you don't take the drill straight up through and crack the barrel or anything. What I will say, before we drill the hole, use the depth of the thread on the mount, check it against the drill bit, get an idea of how far in you need to go. We're going to want to have the guide hole the right size for the thread. One tip, if you want to use that as a reference, you can get attachments for the drills that have a guide on them so that it will stop it at a certain point, but if you don't have one of those, you can use a very thin strip of masking tape and actually just wrap it around the drill to the length where you want it to go in. It's not going to cause any issues or anything like that, but that way you know you're going the correct depth on both of them. If you would need that further aid. So let's get this one drilled. There's no going back at this point, so make sure that you're completely happy with where your mount is. Always an idea just to test the stud into the hole, make sure that it's going to thread, that you've got your size right. Be very careful to get it in straight because you're creating a thread as you screw this in, so this is always going to be its point of entry, so make sure you're not putting it in at an angle. What I find is really useful is to use something for a bit of leverage through there. Perhaps if you have an Allen key, you can put that through and then twist it, and that gives you a better bit of leverage on it because it can be a little bit tricky. I also believe you could fit a spanner, I think perhaps an 8mm or perhaps a little smaller around the edge of that. It's really up to you how you want to put that in. So we're going to attach the countersink just to make a recess for the stud to sit in. Do not need to use a lot of this. So the countersink, you're just going to rest it in. You're going to want to put a bit of pressure on, spin it up and just put a little bit of firm pressure. What you're really doing is just sort of tapering the edge of the hole in, so it's somewhere for the stud to sit in. Some studs come with little washers that you put in, and that will fit in those holes nicely. Some of them don't. Don't go overkill on this because you can always make it bigger. So I've used a very small amount there, which should be enough for it to sit in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this in here and see how it sits. I can take the masking tape off at this point as we have committed to this hole. And you see, when you take this off, there should be no marks around the edge now. So you see how that one's there? He could go a little further in just to be a little bit more flush, but to be honest, I'm quite happy with him like that. Now this one is the tricky one. If you've got somebody that's helpful and wouldn't mind holding the stock for you while you drill, that's really going to help you on this one. I'm going to use my horrendously homemade rifle holder and just the tip of a box there just to sort of hold it relatively level. With one hand on the side, I should be firm enough to be straight with the drill. Let's give it a go. So there we have another good hole on there. So now same thing again. That looks pretty straight to me. As you can see here, it's quite a flush finish on there. So I've got all my bits assembled here. One thing, if you're actually doing it on the Anschutz 1417, the 1517, etc., you're not going to need to remove the trigger guard, its housing, etc. This middle screw, it's got a little captive nut on the top which sits into a recess the other side. You won't actually need to remove that, which I only noticed now after I've done it. I've not stripped this one before. All you need to remove is the two end screws, and that would drop the barrel and action all in one out. So to save yourself a bit of time and bother, leave these pieces in. So I'm going to quickly pop those back in. Okay, so once that one's in, I'm sure that's tight, I'm going to flip it back over, and now we need to put the barrel in. So on this barrel, I've got quite a stiff magazine release, so I have to make sure that one's depressed to get past the catch on the other side. It should sort of click into place. And take it under here, just make sure that's pushed back, and then that's in. I'm just going to drop the screws in. And there we go. That feels like that's all done on that part. So just to check everything's located, I'm going to pop the magazine in, and I'm going to pop the bolt in. The bolt's quite straightforward. That's going to go in anyway. And there it is. That all seems absolutely fine. Now that we've got our studs on either side, we're ready to pop a sling on it, or a bipod. So here we go. Got the strap mounts on, strap fitted, and there it is, as simple as that. Perfectly easy to do yourself, just take a little bit of time, care, and you're away. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video.